Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will, Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Anybody? Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm the blog father, Adam Best. As always, I'm joined by the golden voice of Sterling Holmes. Brother, I meet you at the crossroads. This is a tough spot to be in. How are you feeling?
Well, personally, I'm great. I leave for Florida Friday. I'm going to be on a beach having margaritas made in my mouth. So, yes, I feel myself personally, it's great, lovely, phenomenal. When it comes to talking about the Chiefs, not great, Bob. No, I'm not thrilled. There are a lot of issues, a lot of things that we even heard from the Chiefs pressers today that didn't necessarily inspire. There are a lot of warning signs, and they keep going off. And I think some folks might be, some folks are a little too far gone, and that's their prerogative, Bobby Brown style. But I think there needs to be a little nuance and also a little maybe understanding from the folks in charge of the alarm is going off. Turn the alarm off. Stop trying to tell us the alarm's not going off. We can all hear the alarm going off. Take the batteries out. Put new batteries in.
Yeah, I found myself in an unexpected position where I kind of feel like I might be one of the biggest optimists of the group. And maybe that's because we've been doing this for 4 years now, 4 seasons. And I was back doing this when the Chiefs had Herm Edwards and Todd Haley. And I know what truly bleak looks like. I know what it looks like to stare into the abyss, the real abyss, not this current semi-abyss. But I also feel like I've seen this movie before, and maybe not the exact movie, but this franchise almost always goes the same way. And yeah, sure, maybe this time Luke Skywalker has lost his hand and Han Solo is in carbonite and it looks like it's over, but I just don't know. I can't count him out. And we're going to get into that.
I've heard way too many Star Wars things today. On radio, I'm not the Star Wars guy. First off, how do they all speak English? How do they all understand each other? What? It's in a galaxy far, far away in the future, but somehow it's also in the past. Also, how are there any sounds? You're in space. You can't hear bleep in space. What are we doing here? Like 12 Star Wars. I'm over it.
Well, they're inside spaceships generally and on planets with oxygen. And I just like Star Trek. I think it's just accepted that the common tongue in terms of the galaxy is English. They do this in movies. In Valkyrie, which is about like German soldiers, Tom Cruise couldn't do a German accent. So everyone just kind of like had their own accents and spoke English. It doesn't make sense sometimes, but movie logic, as long as the audience goes with it and can suspend disbelief, I guess that's the way it works.
I'm a realist, and that's what we're talking Chiefs football.
We have a great show for you guys today. We're going to examine the running game and who's to blame. Reid versus Veach. That should be a fun tale of the tape. We've got Hot Take Kingdom back for, I think, the second week in a row. And then lastly, we're going to do a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, look at Colts and Chiefs. We got a heavyweight fight, or what we hope is a heavyweight fight. But before that, we've got a little bit of business.
Yeah, and that's underdog. The Chiefs somehow are still the favorites. They're not underdogs against the Colts. That's what we have seen. But I have some fun picks I want to give you on underdog in just a moment. You guys all know we've been doing this for a while now, and we love playing on underdog. So you guys should get off the bench and get into the game. Head over to Underdog to get in on all the action. And it's not just NFL. It's great for, NBA, NCAA, hockey, any sport in between. Underdog is the best place to go. So just do it. What are you waiting for? It's super easy. All you have to do, higher or lower on stats like rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns, and a lot more. You get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. I gave this out yesterday. I'll say it right now. I like the higher yet again on Travis Kelce receiving yards. I've been ripping Travis Kelce receiving yards all year long. It's been good to me. I'm going to go lower with Jonathan Taylor rush yards. I just think the Chiefs will do a good job taking away the rush of Jonathan Taylor. I still think I'm going to go higher, though, with Tyler Warren on his receiving yards. That might be the third pick that I feel least confident about. I feel pretty confident with the first two. That one I feel a little less so, but I'm still going to roll with it. I like having a little more fun on Underdog, rolling with 3 picks in this one. So if you want to join me, if you want to follow me, or if you want to fade me, download the app today and sign up with the promo code Arrowhead Addict to score $100 in bonus funds or entries when you play with your first $5. That's promo code Arrowhead Addict. Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado, for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets at underdogfantasy.com/web/playing. Get terms _.dfs_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncbgambling.org. In New York, call 24/7-HOPE-LINE at 1-877-8-HOPE and wire text HOPE and Y 467-369. Worst disclaimer read ever.
Don't feel too bad about it.
I struggled. I needed water, and I knew I needed water before the show, and I didn't get any. And I had Chipotle and the mixture of hot sauce with rice and black beans and chicken.
Well,
it's on me.
I can filibuster. We can start with Hot Take Kingdom, and you can run and go get some water and come back, and that's an option. Are you just going to be a glutton for punishment?
I'm going to fight through. I'll pull an Andy Reid. I got some things I need to clean up. We'll work on that.
Okay, let's get into our first segment, and that's who to blame for the running game, Reid versus Veach. I'm going to kind of paint the picture for us here, and then we'll sort of debate this out. The 2024 and 2025 Chiefs have 2 of the 3 worst explosive rush rates of the past 25 seasons, the century so far. That stat via ESPN's Ben Solak. This one from Ian Hartitz, who's like one of the fantasy must-follows, very, very sharp guy. He calls it humorously cool shit. And that is a running back's total touchdowns, explosive plays, and tackles avoided divided by carries and targets. Now, only 59 players qualified for this statistic. Kareem Hunt was 51st. Isaiah Pacheco is 56th. Brashard Smith is 58th. Once again, not great, Bob. And you might want to pin that on Andy Reid, but they're 13th in rushing success rate. So it's not pretty, but they are having success when they run, which makes me kind of think, not to get ahead of myself, but Andy Reid is kind of doing okay with the tools he has. And I want to look at the history of this. So we have the failed Clyde Edwards-Helaire strategy of picking a running back in the first round versus success with castaways, 7th rounders, and undrafted free agents. And I think it's taught the Chiefs a lesson perhaps they've gone too far with. But when you look at the rest of the league, it's hard to say they're wrong. Once again, they may have gone too far, but it's hard to say they're wrong because outside of Saquon Barkley, who won a championship on an absolutely loaded team, and I think he was vital to that team's success, but was he the reason? I don't know. He's a bit of an outlier. But if you look at this group of running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, James Cook, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, who, his prime is past, but he still counts as a star, and Devon Achane, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 0 Super Bowl wins. And then the Rams recently won it all with Sonny Michel and Darrell Henderson as a platoon. So my questions to you are the following, Sterling. How much of this is the cook and how much of it is the grocery shopper? And in terms of the grocery shopping, how involved do you think Andy Reid is still as trust in Brett Veach has grown? And I'll get the third question after we go through that.
So I kind of want to do this into a pie chart, if you will, because the obvious answer is both, and that's just boring. Okay, if I say both, that, yeah, of course, we all agree, but I do think there needs to be at least a little more blame to one side. No one likes someone sitting on the fence, so I will not do it. 51-49. No, I'm kidding. So when I come to the pie chart, I actually want to involve Patrick Mahomes in this. Something I talked about briefly yesterday with Briscoe, and it comes down to RPOs, and it comes down to checking out of plays at the line of scrimmage. I don't want to go through all of the nuance yet again, but a lot of times you're given 2 plays at the line of scrimmage. Sometimes you can say, hey, I'm going to check into this play. Other times you're going to check out of a play into a run. Maybe it's into a pass. But a lot of times Patrick is given the ability to do so, right? That's part of the, when you get the play call and the huddle, all of that. So I think Patrick deserves some blame. I'm giving Patrick about 15% of it, maybe even 20% for an even number. I'll give Patrick 20% just because it's an even number. And on these RPOs, let's be real. What do you guys think he's going to do? You think he's handing the ball off, or is he going to choose the pass option? Right? Of course, he's going to choose the pass option, and it's not always a bad thing. And quite frankly, when you are, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, you're going to do it. So if I give him 20%, I think I'm giving Andy 30 and Brett Veach 50. Because I don't think Andy, even if the Chiefs would have landed Breece Hall, I don't know if Andy's running the ball that much more. Like, I don't believe that. The only reason why, and everyone pulls up Jamal Charles, well, they did it because they didn't have the quarterback. Right? Like that, there are some nuances in that equation of why Jamal was so involved. And a lot of times it was with the pass game as well. It's also a little bit towards the tail end of Jamal, right? A lot of it was with Todd Haley, different storylines, all of that. I just firmly believe that not enough legitimate investment has been made in the running back room, but I don't think it has to be made over the top with the first-round draft pick or trading a third-rounder for an expiring contract in Breece Hall, who was good, not great. I think what you needed to do and what you needed to see, and this is the tough question of, would you have taken a running back in the 4th round? Well, then you probably don't have Noah Williams, right? I don't know if that's the wrong decision. The wrong decision was taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 1st. The wrong decision was going into this year with Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, and then your running back you drafted was a 7th rounder who was mostly a wide receiver in college. Like, there's a multitude of reasons how the Chiefs got to this situation. I do think, though, Andy deserves a lot of blame because they are running for 6.4 yards a carry on first down runs under center. What are you doing? You're passing for 4.9. You're running for 6.4. Why do you keep dropping back? That is a silly thing. And why do you keep stopping and going away from something that's working? That's dumbassery at its finest. That's overthinking at its finest. That's what I come back to is, yeah, the running backs aren't great. Kareem Hunt probably can't take 20 carries a game at this point. I would have liked to see 20 carries last week against the Broncos. That game meant too much. But at the same time, you need more depth, and you got to actually stick with the run. You want to help Patrick out? Stick with the run. You want to help Patrick out? Don't make it an RPO. Have it as a legit run, not an option. You're running the ball under center. Do it. It has worked.
A lot to unpack there. I disagree with some of it, and I strongly agree with some of it. The Chiefs are currently 5th in dropback EPA. They had their starting left tackle out for a month. They were without Rashee Rice for 6 weeks. They were without Xavier Worthy for 2 weeks, and he's probably been compromised all year. And Patrick Mahomes hasn't always played like himself, and they're still like one of the 5 best passing teams in the league. And I think those yards per carry numbers are skewed. Teams are inviting Kareem Hunt to run. They are letting him run to some extent. And I think if you do that more, not only is Kareem Hunt old and probably his efficiency will just wane because he's a little over the hill, and I don't know that he can carry the ball 20 times, but also I think they can key on him a little bit more without necessarily stacking the box. They can make some small tweaks that really, they're not going to go away from let's stop Patrick Mahomes. So I think having Isaiah Pacheco could help, because when you have Pacheco and Hunt, you can give them both 10 to 12 carries and you can get to that number better and not lose efficiency. But I don't know. I think the problem is that his running backs aren't very good. And
I think, to me, clearly Kareem Hunt's the best back on this team. Like, I don't think there's a debate at this point. I think Kareem's the best running back on this team. I just think at his age, he cannot take and handle 20 plus carries. I'm with you. And Pacheco, you're right, alleviate some of those concerns. Some of the pushback I'm trying to give to folk is Kareem Hunt, and we'll find out with Pacheco, so much more efficient under center. That's my main gripe with Andy right now. That's the main gripe I have. They cannot run at a shotgun. And I do think it's hard for the offensive line, whether they want to admit it or not, during RPOs. You can't get past a yard downfield. You know how hard it is to not fire off the ball? You're basically sitting there waiting to figure out if it's a run or a pass. You block differently. It is how the NFL works. It's how offensive line play works. And they can deny that all they want. I just don't believe it. I will not believe it. If it's an RPO, you will block differently from a run versus a pass. So I think that has an issue of running out of shotgun as well. And just real quick on the Brashard Smith front, I know some people want to see him. I know people are desperate to see something different. From what we have seen so far with him running the ball, I've not been super enthusiastic this year. I'm not saying he won't be going forward, because the athleticism and pass catching acumen is phenomenal. I do think he has the potential to be a great guy, but you're not going to do it. There's a reason why you're seeing Rashee Rice lined up in the backfield in certain situations. They don't trust Brashard Smith right now. The vision just isn't quite there. He's played running back 1 year in college. 1 year, right? You're not going to throw him into game 11 for the Kansas City Chiefs in a playoff hunt and say, we're going to roll with the rookie. We don't know how he is in pass pro, and we don't know how he's going to be running the football, finding the holes. They trust Kareem. They trust Isaiah Pacheco. I don't think you're going to see an uptick in Brashard Smith snaps. Hell, we've seen a downtick in Brashard Smith snaps, even with the injury to Isaiah Pacheco.
And furthermore, they obviously don't trust him as a pass protector, because on 3rd and long, Elijah Mitchell was in the game. That's who Patrick Mahomes was targeting in the end zone when he threw that horrific interception. So they can only really use Brashard Smith because he can't pass protect, or at least they don't trust him to yet. And because he can't run up the middle, he is basically a gimmick player or a manufactured touch guy. And that's just not going to alleviate the problems that the Chiefs currently have. It's interesting because I think half the people think Andy would use a running back if he had one. And the other half of people, I think you're in that camp, don't think he would, no matter who is back there. And I think maybe we're looking at it wrong, because one thing I know Andy would do is he would pass to the running back. His screen game that he loves so dearly would be amplified by a player like Breece Hall. There's no question. I think Breece Hall is a good rusher. I think he is a great receiver. And that's just one example. I think this team, ever since Jerick McKinnon stopped being available, it just hasn't looked the same. They need that element. The West Coast offense, the way Andy Reid calls plays, the way he leans on screens, he needs that guy. And they just don't have it. Kareem Hunt has good hands. He's a great pass protector. He cannot get upfield anymore and make something happen. He can't make people miss in open space.
I want to hit on this real quick from Kyle in the chat. You know, he's been saying, not sure why we're talking about running back. It's 2025, passing league, 5 wide, empty backfield, air raid offense. I'm not trying to necessarily argue with a ton here, Kyle. I appreciate the comments and questions here, but I think there's a little misconception. The league has evolved back to a more balanced league. This was 21. I would 100% agree, but I think the past couple of years, you're seeing a trend back to more old school running the ball. The reason is, and I've talked about this with Emmitt Smith. I remember the first time I talked with Emmitt about this. This was probably 4 years ago. The NFL is cyclical, okay? So there's always going to be differences and changes, and eventually the running back and the run game will come back and matter. And I think we're in the midst of that right now. I'm not saying it's not more efficient to run than pass when you have Patrick Mahomes, but I'm saying the run game matters. It matters here in KC. It's why we're talking about it. Because you look at linebackers now in the NFL. Most linebackers now are no longer the, 260, the Nick Bolton types, right? Back in the day, you had 3 Nick Boltons, but they were probably even 6'2". Like, you had big dudes with the neck rolls and the big pads, and what was their job? To stop the run. You had defensive tackles. What was the old job of the defensive tackle? To stop the run. You didn't see a ton of defensive tackles get sacks, right? You didn't see a whole bunch of pass rush up the middle. And so the game has changed. So you have lighter defensive tackles, guys like Chris Jones, Quinnen Williams, DeForest Buckner, guys who probably focus a little more on getting after the quarterback than the run. You have linebackers who now have gotten lighter. Drew Tranquill would have been a tiny linebacker back in the day, right? You probably wouldn't have played him. And so when you've seen the sizes and the style of game change, well, then teams who focus on the run will take advantage of the A, lighter boxes, and B, lighter players. And so that's just where we're at right now. When you saw the game against the Broncos, the reason why those runs were so effective and why it was so frustrating was, yes, they're working, but the Broncos never made the Chiefs. The Chiefs stopped themselves. They never stopped the run. They never believed that they were going to stick with it. On those RPOs and all those plays, what were the linebackers doing? At the line of scrimmage, when the ball was snapped, they were moving back. They got 6, 7, 11 yards. But what did they do? The Broncos still said on those RPOs or play actions, we're still going to drop back. We don't believe that you're going to stick with the run. There has to be at least one game. And I'm not talking 4 years ago against the Buffalo Bills with Clyde. One game this year where they say, we're going to run it 25 times until these linebackers stop dropping back in coverage. You want the RPOs to work better? You want play action to work better? You have to stick with the run. And I cannot believe that I am saying this because I was so staunch, almost to an extent. I wasn't running backs don't matter, but I was more on that side. And I've evolved my thought process on this because of what we're witnessing this year here in Kansas City.
I was probably even further than you on that side. And now I'm kind of bending the knee. You have to, because in 2021, guys like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, JOK from the Browns, they drafted him. He's a 220-pound linebacker. He was kind of an anomaly, but now that is commonplace, right? You have a lot of converted safeties. You have a lot of light linebackers, and teams are sitting back to stop the explosive plays in the passing game. So a lot of the league zigged. So a lot of offenses zagged. You look at all the other contenders, they have top flight running games. Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, James Cook. The list goes on and on and on. The Rams and Bills, especially around that same time, are like, look, we can't put this much on our quarterback. We have to figure out how to run the ball. And both those franchises have, with James Cook and Kyron Williams. And the Bills are doing these jumbo sets, and the Rams, the new meta, it seems like Sean McVay is now the biggest innovator in the NFL, not Andy Reid. And he's doing a lot of 3 tight ends. Even though he has Puka and Devontae Adams, they're having a lot of success running and throwing out of those 13 personnel looks. And I just think the Chiefs have been a little stubborn, a little behind the curve. And because they have the best quarterback in the league, they've gotten away with it. But they've kind of learned the wrong lessons, or at least they've gone with their lesson and ran too far. And it reminds me a lot of what they did with their left tackle for years and years and years. Sometimes it works, but you're playing with fire. And just like last year in the left tackle front, they got burned. I think they're getting burned because they went back to the well one too many times. And I don't know, this shoestring budget for running backs, it's just not going to work every single year.
And again, you don't build your team, in my opinion, around the running back. Look at the Browns. Quinshaw Judkins is, I think, a really good running back. Ashton Genty for the Raiders. You have to have the quarterback and the rest of the team. But what the running back can do is elevate your team exponentially, right? Like even Travion Henderson, what we've now seen with him and the Patriots, they had to get Drake May correct first. But once that got correct, then you've seen Travion help take that offense to new heights. I think even you can say the opposite in Tampa Bay. Once Bucky Irving got injured, that offense has slowly been brought back down to earth, right? And again, I know there's injuries to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but even with those guys out, the offense was humming with Bucky Irving in there. He gets injured. They have to go back to, Sean Tucker, who's actually had a good game, and Rashad White, I think he's a local KC guy as well. And they just have taken a step back. Baker's taken a step back. Again, they coexist together. Again, quarterback's the most important thing, but running back is starting to show that there is a lot of value still there.
I think as far as your pie chart goes, Patrick does have some accountability here, but maybe he just likes playing more from shotgun. I get that sense. You brought this up on the post-game show on Sunday. I thought it was a great point. Joe Burrow is the same way. So, I mean, if you go under center more, what are you sacrificing? Does he like to have his back turned that much when he's dropping back, when he's doing play action? Do you really want to ask Patrick Mahomes to make a huge sacrifice for the passing game on behalf of a talent like Kareem Hunt? That would be my counter argument, but I'm probably giving him 10%. I'm giving Reid 70%, 20%, and Veach 70%. Right now, Veach is the GM. It's hard for us to sit here on a computer and say how much pull Andy Reid has or doesn't have on draft day, but Veach seems to have a decent amount of autonomy.
Yeah. Two quick things I want to get to. One, appreciate the super chat from Dog Petter. Says, I'm worried the Chiefs won't re-sign Tyquan Thornton. I'm with you. If it were up to me, I think Tyquan Thornton should get more playing time than Hollywood Brown. And quite frankly, I think Tyquan should take the Xavier Worthy deep routes, and Xavier Worthy should take the kind of underneath intermediate Hollywood Brown routes. That's where I think at this point in their career they are at. I'm not saying Hollywood's not a good player. I'm just saying I think Xavier's almost better in that role. And quite frankly, I think Tyquan's much better on the deep ball role than Xavier Worthy is right now. But yeah, I would love to see Tyquan Thornton back here in KC. I'm very intrigued to see what his contract's going to look like. I can't imagine it being anything drastic, but still, who knows what the wide receiver market is going to look like. And I think this is a good point from Ronson Trait. To be fair, you have to find cost savings somewhere in the roster. You're correct. But again, they spent a first rounder on Clyde, right? And that's a big mix. They spent a first rounder on FAU. And I'm not saying that everyone is going to be correct, but they also spent a decent chunk on Elijah Mitchell. Like Rico Dowdle, for example, was cheaper than Elijah Mitchell. Rico Dowdle has been amazing this year for the Panthers, right? Like there are some nuances. You got to get it right. And the Chiefs in the run game market have not gotten it right. I think that's what it comes down to more than anything else. You're right. I've been on that same page for a long time. I've somewhere been with wide receivers as well. Mahomes can elevate wide receivers. He can't elevate the defense. So I'm okay with money being spent on the O-line and defense. But you're right. Money has to be saved somewhere. But running back is such a value position. You can still find cheap acquisitions that can help elevate your team there.
It's a good point. But when you look at allocation of resources, the Chiefs are saving compared to most teams at wide receiver and in the secondary. They're not bringing these guys back. They didn't bring back Justin Reed or Tyrann Mathieu. They shipped out L'Jarius Sneed, Charvarius Ward. They let walk. They're saving a lot of money for how good their secondary is every year. They're saving a lot of money there. And we're not saying for them to throw money around to running backs, but right now they're allocating less resources to the position than anyone in the league over the past 7 or 8 years, especially if you take out that CEH pick. It is nothing but castaways, UDFAs, and 7th rounders. And that's just not going to get it done. It's okay. Yeah, we don't want you to use another first rounder unless you're really confident you're getting Jahmyr Gibbs. Then okay. But otherwise, it's okay to spend a 3rd rounder. It's okay to spend a 4th rounder. Really quick on Tyquan Thornton. He is second on the team in yards per route run. His yards per route run number is 1.89. Really, anything over 2 is elite. And when you consider that he's coming in and out of games and they're having him run kind of wind sprints, that is kind of remarkable efficiency, especially when you compare him to Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown, a lot of us have different opinions on him. he is without a doubt a descending player, and Tyquan Thornton is an ascending player. So I think it makes sense for the Chiefs, if they have him in their long-term plans, to keep getting him reps. I'm just not sure that they do. But I would be shocked if Hollywood Brown is back here next year. I think Tyquan has a much better shot of returning than Hollywood does. Let's move on to our next segment, Hot Take Kingdom. This week's Hot Take Kingdom is the 5-5 Kansas City Chiefs will flip the switch and make the playoffs. Welcome to the kingdom. All right, you're bouncing a little bit this week. Last week you
Slight
just
bounce.
refused. Yes,
Slight
it was
bounce.
slight. It was slight, but last week you weren't moving, so I will take that as a sign of progress. You guys know the drill. I throw out a hot take and build a case. Sterling either enters the kingdom or rejects the argument. You ready for this one, Sterling?
I am ready. Best.
All right, let's start with a brief history lesson because I think there's some serious memory loss going on. So 2019 Chiefs started 6-4 and struggled to find their rushing attack. They had a putrid 2-4 stretch, and then they finished 12-4 and won the Super Bowl. Went on a great run. And remember, 7 games, they had a lead rusher that had less than 45 yards. They were really struggling with this platoon of Damian Williams, Shady McCoy, and Darwin Thompson until very late in the season. Damian Williams went on a heater that they just found what they were looking for, but it took them some experimentation. And 4 of those first 8 games, they had a lead rusher that had less than 45 yards. So very similar to this year. I mean, 6-4 isn't that different from 5-5, especially that year they only had 16 games to make the playoffs. In 2021, the Chiefs started 3-4, then won 9 of their next 10 games and made it to overtime of the AFC Championship game. That team honestly had less injury and absence excuses than this iteration, in my opinion. The 2023 championship team was 9-6 after a humiliating loss on Christmas. That famously was Netflix's first game, their debut game for that streaming platform. Everybody was watching. They actually, getting the Chiefs seemed to be part of the deal. They wanted the Chiefs, and the Chiefs just completely face planted with everybody, with all eyes on them. And everyone thought they were cooked. They went on to win the Super Bowl. I think that 2023 team had less talent, especially offensively, than this team does. So the Chiefs have dug themselves out of very similar holes before. This might be the worst one yet, but not by much. And I think there's been a common refrain on this program, on other shows, on social media, that the Chiefs are a bad football team or are not a good football team. I just disagree. I think the analytics, I think the numbers tell a different story. So here are the current Kansas City ranks. They are first in ESPN's Football Power Index. Not the end-all be-all by any shot. It's a newer kind of index, but they have a 7.3 score, and their offense alone would top this index. The Rams are second overall at 5.0. The Chiefs are third in offensive EPA per play. They are third in offensive DVOA. They are fourth in offensive success rate, and they have the highest percentage of offensive drives that get a first down at 68%. Defensively, they are 14th in defensive EPA per play and 16th in defensive DVOA. That's still in the top half of the league. That's survivable, especially when you consider Steve Spagnuolo defenses historically get better over the second half of the season. That is a trend that is well documented. I think to some extent we can count on them getting a little better. I would not get over our skis there, but he tends to figure things out as the season progresses. And this is a great stat from FTN Fantasy. Out of all 5-5 teams since 1978, they are the 4th highest in DVOA. 2 of the 3 teams ahead of them made the playoffs, and all 3 of those teams only had 16 games to do so. So there is a historical precedence for this kind of team going on a run. I think statistically, this is a better football team than last year that has lost its ability to win close games. And given how I saw Chris Jones and Travis Kelce play last week, they looked maybe not peak, but fairly close. Chris Jones looked the best he has all season, arguably. I thought Travis Kelce, it was like, wow, did he discover the fountain of youth during the bye week? He looked incredible. And man, I just can't quit Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Steve Spagnuolo. Once again, I just think they'll solve the equation. I've just seen them do this so many seasons and dig themselves out of so many holes. I think they're going to do it again. I don't know that they're going to run the table. Maybe I was overconfident last week, but if they can beat the Colts this week and then only lose one other game, they're going to get into the playoffs, and I think they can accomplish that. So, Sterling, you've heard my case. Are you coming into the castle or staying outside its walls?
So I'm coming in because I think they make the playoffs, but this Colts game will tell me a lot, and that Broncos game told me a lot. Because if you didn't have desperation coming off of a bye against an AFC West opponent, I don't know. And they said they're going to get up and they're treating this differently against the Colts. But now you are like, why didn't you against the Broncos? I just have some concerns that this is going to be one of those years where the variance just does not go in the Chiefs' favor after they had so much variance go their way last year. It's, you flip a coin 100 times, it should be 50-50, but let's say it's 90 times on head, doesn't mean that the next, or 50 times on head doesn't mean the next 50 should be tails. It's still a 50-50 chance each time, but that's almost what we've seen this year, where everything went the Chiefs' way last year. This year, it's just everything's going the opposite. It's why I always say I love analytics in baseball, because 162 games, that's a much longer time period for that to even out. I don't love analytics as much in football, because with 17-game regular season, you just got to find a way to win. Like, I just think that you have to make the right call. I think gut decisions matter more. I think the, lucky plays or variance plays, like, you have to have them go your way, because the analytics, they don't have enough time to really even out. I think they make the playoffs. They can for sure lose one more game. They might be able to lose two, but that game cannot be to Houston or Denver or the Chargers. They'll have to win that one. This Colts game is also one of those ones that they really, really need to win because of the AFC. And as far as the tiebreakers, if they do end up 10-7, then you'll have to start looking at some AFC tiebreakers and beating a really good strength of record, strength of schedule team. And the Colts, one of those tiebreakers will come into play. That's why you can't lose to Houston, who you're currently behind right now, because you don't have the tiebreaker with Jacksonville. So you're hoping Jacksonville chokes. But yeah, I still think this Chiefs team makes the playoffs. I think they're still good enough. I still think the second half of the schedule gives them enough opportunities to make it. I still believe in Patrick. I just don't know if it's one of those years where variance is all against you, where if we see a chance for a game-winning field goal and all of a sudden Butker misses one. Let's say you have a chance for a play and let's say a call goes against you late in the fourth quarter and the other team ices it. It just feels like one of those years that the Chiefs cannot get out of their own way. And I just hope it doesn't continue. But I do feel pessimistic a little bit after that Broncos game, because, again, if you can't get things cleaned up and you have 10 penalties out of a bye, that's disheartening.
I go back and forth on this Broncos game. I was supremely confident, and it was a wake-up call to me. The Denver Broncos are here to stay. I've always been a big Sean Payton guy. I think he's a hell of a coach. I think he called a brilliant game. I think Vance Joseph called a brilliant game. And frankly, if you are the Denver Broncos, that new ownership group, this new regime, and their fans, this was a foundational win for that program. They needed to come out and prove to the world that we should be taken seriously. We are not an also-ran in the AFC West. We are sick of the Chiefs coming in here and kicking our ass and beating us 15 times in a row. We are their equal now, and we're not going to take this anymore. I think they were a desperate football team, and Mile High is a very hard place to play. You have the altitude. They have great fans. I mean, that's a tough team. Similarly, it's not easy to go into Buffalo and win. The Chiefs really almost never do it. They did it in the playoffs, but in the regular season, I mean, what have they done at one time? That weird rain game where they ran Clyde like 35 times or whatever. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but they ran him a shit ton. So I think those were the two toughest games on the schedule. And if Patrick Mahomes doesn't throw that weird interception where he got by Devin Lloyd, the season looks a lot different.
It does. We're not doing that though. Because
Why not?
you can say the same thing for every game. You can say for games come down to one play so many times. If Leo doesn't block the field goal against the Broncos last year, they lose. If the Raiders aren't dumbasses and forget how to snap a football last year, the Chiefs probably lose. I'm not playing that game because every game, I get what you're saying that, yeah, well, if this would have happened, no, because now you're starting to sound like teams last year, and I don't play that game. You are what your record says you are.
It leads to a larger point. I don't think the Chiefs really are. I mean, in a way, they obviously are what the record says they are because they can't close and coffee is for closers. But if you look at all those numbers I just laid out, I would be shocked if this continues. I just don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to continue to throw costly red zone interceptions that lose them games. I just do not see that trend continuing. We've seen no evidence.
We saw it last week.
I know, but we haven't seen that throughout his career. But throughout his career, over a longer stretch of information, that's just not who he is. I mean, maybe it is who he is now, but every time I've ever seen someone doubt Patrick Mahomes and think that he's already peaked, they look stupid for saying that. So
no, I agree. I'm not saying I'm like doubting him or saying the Chiefs aren't. Again, I told you, I think the Chiefs still make the playoffs. I think they probably go 11-6, probably lose one more game. I'm with you. I just believe enough in the track record over the past few seasons. I just, again, the back of my mind, I just wonder if everything was so good last year that this year it just flipped that drastically. You're right. All the underlying numbers scream this team is better, but they're 5-5. And at some point that matters. If you can't close games, we gave the Chiefs so much credit last year for winning those one-score games. I can't now discredit it because then I feel like I am just being a homer. I feel like at that point I'm only saying what is for what. If it's good for my team, I'm counting it. If it's bad for it's like PFF. If it helps my account, if it helps my case, I'm going to use it. If it hurts my case, it's hogwash and it doesn't matter. This year, the Chiefs just can't win close games. They have choked. Whether they're tired or not, I think it's a possibility. It's part of the situation. It's part of the scenario. Real quick, I see this from Cody. I think it's a good call. And I think some people have asked this before. You know, he says, why do we have the hardest schedule all the time? Well, when you are always the one, right? You're first place in the AFC West. You play other ones. When you're the two, you play the twos. Three, you play the three. If you get fourth, you play the other fours. The reason why the NFL does that's for parity, right? It's so that way if you were bad the year before, you now have a better chance of actually making the playoffs the following year, right? It's why Houston had such a great turnaround. It's why Washington has. I mean, it's why you'll see a lot of first to worst because they'll have the easiest schedules. You won't see the easiest every year in regards to who they play, right? Because this year they play the AFC South and they play the NFC. Who do they play in the NFC this year? What was the division? I can pull it up. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now.
The East, the NFC East.
Yeah, with the Eagles, Giants. So they play the East. This year, relatively speaking, it's probably easier. The Eagles aren't as good as they were last year. And the Cowboys will find out on Thanksgiving. And the Giants, at least at that point, the Chiefs faced them, had Russell Wilson as the starting quarterback. And Washington had a bad year without Jane Daniels. I mean, quite frankly, you even say the Chiefs have had a relatively easier than expected schedule. Yeah, I know that the Colts are a lot better than we thought. And the Broncos are better than we thought. But you knew you were playing the Broncos twice every single year. You know you're playing the Chargers twice every single year. Yeah, I get it. It's not the Bills. You don't have Miami in your conference. But New England no longer looks like that slouch. Yeah, you have the Jets you can beat on twice a year. I get that, but the point still remains. The Chiefs have had lucky situations with Russell Wilson being the quarterback for the Giants, with Marcus Mariota being the quarterback for the Washington.
Sure.
They're going to face the Colts without DeForest Buckner. They faced the Broncos without Patrick Surtain. They've actually had some injury luck on their side, right?
Sure.
Like, grand scheme of things. So I don't think there's a lot of excuses outside of the Chiefs just right now aren't closing games and doing what they need to do. They're doing the opposite of last year.
I will say that next season they should have an easier schedule, not easy, but easier, because they're not going to win the AFC West.
Yes.
So that should help. I want to close with this thought, and it's a good segue to our last mini segment. They lost the Super Bowl and they got blasted. And I think coming off of 2 consecutive Super Bowl wins, they're back-to-back champs. They had reestablished the air of invincibility. The mystique was back. They believed it. Everybody else believed it. And I think late in these games, they had the utmost confidence they were going to find a way. And other teams believed psychologically at points that, are we really going to lose to the Chiefs again? I think after that, and you can call it a Super Bowl hangover, you can call it a loss of confidence, but I think the air of invincibility has evaporated to some extent. I think some of the mystique is gone. I think the Chiefs no longer believe that they are always going to find a way, no matter what, late in these games. And I think other teams believe they can beat the Chiefs because they've seen it done so many times now, that edge that the Chiefs have had for so many years. And at one point they lost it, maybe 21, for after the Bucs lost. They've already gone through this once. We've seen them kind of lose that mystique, that aura, and now they're trying to get it back. And I think that's kind of what's going on, is that everyone's seen Superman bleed. So let's move on really quickly to a rapid fire mini preview to close this out of Colts at Chiefs. And I was high on the Indianapolis Colts coming into the season because if their quarterback situation looked very gross, but if you just put that to the side and looked at their offensive ecosystem, it is top 5 in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor is in the argument for best running back in the league. He is incredible. Tyler Warren is a top 5 tight end already. He is a badass. Then you have that core of Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, and Josh Downs, most underrated wide receiver room in the NFL. Alec Pierce about to get $20 million a year. I know people don't want to hear that, but he is a very good player who's proving himself. And Josh Downs, he would be killing it if he was in a different offense, but he's only out there 50% of the time or so because they do so many 11 personnel. And that line is great. Shane Steichen is an incredible play caller. And then defensively, they got Lou Anarumo, who we know he's one of the best defensive play callers in the game. And obviously he was not the problem in Cincinnati after all. So I think this team is really set up to get hot and be a Super Bowl contender. And I thought they were set up to win the AFC South. All that said, Daniel Jones has really crashed back to earth these past 2 games. I think teams are figuring out, like, let's force him not to just lean on play action. Let's force him not to make his first read every play. And let's make Daniel Jones play outside of that system and see if he can put more on his shoulders and win games. And I think if the Chiefs can turn this into a duel between Patrick Mahomes and Daniel Jones and prevent the Colts from just running the ball 30 times with Jonathan Taylor and milking clock, their chances are pretty good. But I think they have to kind of dictate the style of this matchup. Sterling, what are your quick overarching thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's a good call, by the way. I think the Colts are a very well-run organization. They're a very complete team. They had been for a while. That's why they went, 9-8 or made the playoffs with, was it Gardner Minshew a couple years ago? And that's why I said I thought he was going to stabilize the Raiders. Then I realized the Raiders are just absolute 2 scoops of ass. So no one can stabilize that, not even Pete Carroll. So the Colts have had a good baseline for a while. But Daniel Jones has taken that next step. The one thing I will say is Daniel Jones has been atrocious under pressure in the last 2 weeks. He's been sacked 12 times. 12 times in the last 2 weeks, 7 last week, I believe, before the bye, obviously, by the Atlanta Falcons. So you have to get him to move off his spot. You have to pressure him because if you give Daniel Jones time, he is good enough. He will find those receivers who are good, and they will run great play action. You have to have a great Spags game plan. We know the Chiefs struggle rushing 4. This is a hard test for KC. You got to get pressure because, again, if you let him sit there, He will dice you up. Danny Dimes will throw dimes, make him into Danny Pennies, and get after him.
I thought Steve Spagnuolo versus the Broncos down the stretch, I thought he was a little too conservative. I thought he kept sending those simulated blitzes and said, we'll make Bo Nix think we're sending the house, but we'll only rush 4. I just don't know if he can do that with this defensive line. They just don't have the horses this year. So Daniel Jones is a player you can blitz. I don't think he's going to make you pay like a Matt Stafford would or a Josh Allen would if you blitz the bejesus out of him. So I expect Spags to send some early corner blitzes, some early exotic blitzes at this guy to see if he melts down. The other thing is, if I'm the Chiefs, punch that ball out. Daniel Jones has butterfingers. He fumbles more than just about any quarterback in the league over the course of his career. And I think if you can kind of force him into making some turnovers, there might be a little bit of here we go again in his head. We've seen that these past few weeks. We saw that with the LA Rams and Sam Darnold. Some of these quarterbacks that they're front runners. When everything is going right, they have all the talent in the world and they look incredible. But when things start to crumble, they fold. I still am not convinced that Daniel Jones isn't a folder when the stakes are high.
Yeah.
My prediction for this game is Chiefs 27, Colts 23. I think it's going to be extremely tight. I think Sauce Gardner was a huge addition for them. It'll be interesting to see how much, since Rashee Rice is such like a slot zone buster kind of player, how much he'll actually match up with Gardner, what they'll do with Gardner. But I wish he wasn't on their team because I think that he's a hell of a player. But I'm still picking the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'll go 24-20. I guess I won't be here on Sunday, so I won't have a pregame prediction. So I'll go 24-20 Chiefs.
There we go. We're both picking the Chiefs. I think we have sounded the alarm, but we've hit the panic button. Like you said, the alarm is going off, but we're far from waving the white flag. That's all we've got for you guys today. Thanks for the chat. You always bring it. If you dig Arrowhead Addict, here's how you can help our community grow. Subscribe here on YouTube. That way you never miss a shorter show. If you are an audio listener on Spotify or Apple, please consider leaving a 5-star review. That will help out Sterling and myself a ton. If you're doing that on Apple, you can also leave a question, and that question will be answered on Thursday's OG Hour. Lastly, check out the mothership, arrowheadaddict.com, powered by the passionate fans at Fansided. Matt Connor and the gang always do a great job of keeping you informed. I would say join us live next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central, but next week for Thanksgiving, things are going to look a little different. We still will have some shows for you. We will still have a game preview for you, but that is TBD, to be determined. So until then, go Chiefs.